One afternoon at the office, my coworkers and I dove into a fiery debate about whether women are ever unfaithful. The women in the room insisted they'd never strayed, but the guys just chuckled, calling their claims nonsense and saying fidelity was a myth. Things got so heated that we argued right through lunch, and by late afternoon, it was so intense that even our boss, Mrs. Margaret Swanson, couldn't ignore it. Margaret, a tough woman in her 50s, had been through 3 divorces, lost one husband, and somehow walked away from each marriage with a property that helped her build her business empire. She had no children, just her company, and she ruled our workplace with a no-nonsense attitude, like a general commanding her troops. Clearly fed up with our noisy debate, she decided to shut it down with some blunt reality. "Everybody cheats," she declared, adjusting her glasses with a sharp glare. "If someone says they don't, they're either fooling themselves or lying to you." Turning to her secretary, Steve, she went on, saying people cheat with anyone, rich, poor, it doesn't matter, and no amount of wealth will shield you from betrayal. Her eyes scanned the room, pausing on me for a moment, and she added that looks, charm, or brains won't save you either. Gorgeous, fit, clever, it's all the same. People cheat on everyone, and they're so slick about it, you won't even know you've been played until it's too late. With a wry smile, she dropped a bombshell. "I cheated on every one of my husbands. I'm not proud of it, but I did it because I wanted to, and I love the thrill. They never suspected a thing, but my choices cost me dearly." Unable to stay quiet, I piped up and asked Mrs. Swanson how you even figure out if someone's making a fool of you. She smirked, tilting her head like she was sizing me up, and said it depends, but from her own experience, the first clue is whether your partner still finds you interesting, or if they've stopped caring enough to even argue with you. "Exactly," shouted Tom, one of the marketing guys, jumping in. Margaret nodded and said the second thing to watch is how much effort they put into looking good. Over time, people get lazy, and habits slip, like a married woman might not bother shaving her legs as often as she did when she was dating. Right then, Steve, the secretary, nearly spit out her green tea, choking on it. Margaret raised an eyebrow and said, "Yes, dear, I notice more than you think." Steve's face turned bright red, and she bolted from the room. Margaret pressed on, saying the third sign is how much access you have to their private world, like their phone. Her eyes locked on mine again, and she said, "You've got some thinking to do, don't you? But deal with it at home." I nodded, feeling a pit in my stomach. As she turned to leave, I blurted out one more question. "What if I just confront her directly?" Margaret paused, then said, "She probably won't admit it, but her reaction will speak louder than any words." That night, after mulling over Margaret's words, I was almost convinced my girlfriend was cheating on me. Her lecture had stripped away any rose-colored glasses, but I wasn't ready to point fingers yet. A chance to test my gut came a few days later. My girlfriend, Katie, worked nights, and one evening, she was supposed to be home. On my way back from the office, I swung by a bakery to grab some takeout, figuring a heavy talk needed a full stomach. When I got home, the place was a disaster. As I stepped inside, Katie nearly ran into me at the door, mumbling something about a last-minute call to work and promising she'd be back by morning with overtime pay. There was no dinner, just a sloppy note on the table. She rushed out, leaving a cloud of the fancy perfume I'd bought her. No one heads to work smelling like that. The next morning, she came home still looking polished, wearing that same perfume. When she slipped into bed, I felt nauseous, like I'd been played by the person I trusted most. My stomach churned, like I was a dog picking up the scent of someone else on her. "Where were you?" I asked. "At work," like I said. She replied, too quickly. Margaret's piercing stare from her infidelity lecture flashed in my mind, and I knew exactly what to ask next. "Are you cheating on me?" I said. "No," she shot back, but her mouth twitched, and she flinched, clutching her phone tightly with both hands, just like Margaret had warned. Her words lied, but her body screamed the truth. That's when it hit me. "We're done," I said, my voice steady. "What? Breaking up? Are you crazy? What about the wedding?" I spread my legs You for 4 years for nothing," she snapped, her voice rising. Her voice shot up as she blurted out, "Wow, so that's how you see me?" I couldn't help but let out a sharp, bitter chuckle before firing back. "Oh, come on, don't act so naive, Katie. Open your eyes and face reality. Love doesn't work like that." she snapped, her words cutting deep. A sweet, predictable guy like you? You're the kind of man people marry. I scoffed. Well, thanks for the compliment. So I get betrayed because I'm too nice? Tell me, is your lover some charming hunk or a guy with deep pockets? She yelled, her voice dripping with frustration. Yes, because you're so dull. Look at our life. It's just work, home, repeat. She flung her arms out, her dramatic gesture filling the room. You clueless jerk, everything I've done has been for you. Isn't that enough? My anger boiled over, and I shouted, Enough? It's never enough for you, is it? Her face, creased with fury, softened suddenly, and a heavy sadness settled over her. We sat there, locked in a silent stare, the air thick with tension. Tears welled up in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. Her secret double life, with all its chaos, had pulled her so far from reality and from us that she'd lost her way completely. Chasing the thrill of an affair to escape the steady, quiet life we'd built had given her a fleeting rush, but now she was facing the consequences of her reckless choices, just as Margaret had warned. Affairs always end in heartbreak, even if the fallout looks different for everyone. For me, it meant walking away from our relationship. For her, it meant packing up and moving back to her parents' house, leaving behind 4 years of a life we'd shared, now reduced to nothing but regret.